Tom Barclay here at Chelsea. What better place to talk about Tottenham here for the Chelsea-Man City game today. But I thought I'd have a few words to say about James Maddison and a few other midfielders going into Monday's game, the first game for Tottenham of the season against Leicester. Maddison seems like quite a key figure going into this game, given what a great player he is, but what tough times he's had, and the fact that he obviously came from Leicester about a year ago. So we asked Ange Postecoglou about him, about the struggles that he's had, a difficult summer, obviously missing out on the Euros, and his reaction to that and how he's been since. And Ange basically said, first of all, the injury he had, even though it was only a gap of about 2.5, 3 months out, it was actually quite a significant injury. And when you think of someone like Odobert, who obviously a lot of fans are calling for to sign, he's probably someone, yes, you know, when you watch him now and you watched him towards the end of last season, was in fantastic form and is someone that really is understandable why Spurs fans would want to sign him. He had a really bad injury a couple of years ago now, I guess, where he was out for 5 months with a damaged Achilles. Came back in rapidly quick time, but he didn't really hit the heights again for another 6 months, and I think that's just often overlooked by fans of how difficult it can be to get back to the same level before you got injured. So I mean, it's one thing returning to play, it's another thing entirely returning to the level you hit before, and hopefully that's what we're seeing with Maddison, because when he came back after a blistering start to his Spurs career, the first few months obviously he was fantastic after making that £45 million switch from Leicester. Obviously got injured in that Chelsea game, Chelsea fitting again, and was out for 2.5 months, but to be honest, towards the whole end of last season he struggled. Wasn't really a shock when he missed out on the England squad. Perhaps it was on the day to a certain extent when Southgate cut down from 33 to 26 man squad, but to be honest, as someone who covered England out in Germany, it wasn't like Maddison's name's cropped up too often as if it was a big mistake from Southgate, and it was, given the wealth of options that Southgate had at his disposal attacking midfield, it felt entirely justified. Pre-season, it seems like he's been a little underwhelming. Not that I've seen him too often during pre-season, but when he has played, he's seemed okay, but still nowhere near the levels that we know he can be. So we asked Postecoglou about him, and he said that, first of all, as I said, the injury was a significant one, that he's come back as someone who looks hugely hungry to get his career back on track, get his England credentials back on track. He's sort of kind of almost urged James to not just think, well, it's nothing to do with him missing out on England, but to sort of use that as a way to help him and improve him quickly. And he also talked about the X factor he can bring, really, Maddison, to this team, and how Spurs are a much better team with him playing and firing. Obviously now the signing of Lucas Bergvall has come in, even though he's only 18, he's a similar profile kind of player, and perhaps the pressure for Maddison to perform is even higher, but I still think at this stage at least, we'll see how Bergvall develops. Maddison is, when he's playing well, there's no one like him in the Spurs team, and you know, I've talked before about the fact that Solanke coming in could really help him unlock it. So going into the King Power game, it really feels like, you know, a big subplot is going to be Maddison's return, and let's hope he can really kick on. Moving on to another midfielder who is involved in this fixture, or probably not involved in the actual game, but between the two clubs, is Oliver Skipp. So it looks like Skipp is going to be moving to Leicester for a good fee from Tottenham's point of view, for a player that has been involved, I suppose, for Postecoglou, and he likes him a lot, likes his attitude, he likes his work rate, he thinks he's a very honest player, but he only started 5 Premier League games last season. That was before the likes of Archie Gray and Bergvall came in. Admittedly, Højbjerg's left, and we'll probably expect Gilles Lo Celso to leave as well, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of game time despite the extra games with Europe for Skipp. So getting 20 million up front and perhaps with another 5 million add-ons seems like pretty good business for, albeit a young player at 23 who has won the Euros for the under-21s England side, although he didn't really feature that much in that. It feels like his career since that injury that he got back in, was it 2022, has kind of cost him quite a bit. I mean, obviously he signed a new 5-year deal with Spurs, they put faith in him at the time, and Jose Mourinho even talked about him being a future Spurs captain. So he's got a lot of attributes that could suggest that he could have been a top player for Tottenham, but for this stage of his career, the way Postecoglou likes to play, it seems like a good move for everyone. The only downside, I suppose, from Tottenham's point of view is the fact that they've got an issue, major headache with this homegrown situation going into Europe. So for the Europe in particular, they need 4 homegrown players that are club trained if they want to take on their full 25 contingent. This looks like at this stage that's not going to happen. The only 2 that I can see at the moment are Brandon Austin, goalkeeper, and Alfie Whiteman now. So there's a good chance they actually might only take 23 in the squad. But Postecoglou was asked about that the other day before the Skipp news came along, and he said, "Don't worry, we're going to have enough players." So I suppose you don't need that full amount of players. If you think you can handle it, and Spurs probably can. But obviously, good luck to Oliver Skipp, a bit like Harry Winks last season. He's a player that came through the ranks at Spurs and showed a lot of quality, a lot of attributes, but perhaps just wasn't the right fit for where they're at right now. And given some of the signings they've made, maybe it makes sense to move on. And from Leicester's point of view, like I said, they're going to get a player who's going to give everything he's got. He does have more quality than some fans probably give him credit for. And with regular game time, I fully expect that to show itself, albeit obviously Leicester are going to be in for a battle this season, given a likely points deduction and just the fact that the squad overall just doesn't look as strong as a lot of the other teams in the Premier League. And just finally, rather than talking about the actual game tomorrow, let's just talk about Wilson Odobert, the latest Tottenham signing, and one, to be fair, completely caught us out completely. No one saw it coming. I mean, I know it's our job to sort of look into these transfers and try and get them as quickly as we can. Some are better than others at doing it, but I don't think anyone pretty much had this one going, which kind of speaks to the way Spurs have been operating, particularly under Lang's kind of approach. Likes to do things under the radar, and it definitely worked with this one. Odobert, I mean, I watched Burnley a couple of times last season as Spurs played them a few times, and I can't say I watched the game and sort of had a major takeaway of what a player he is, but by all intents and purposes, by all accounts, he is someone that they're disappointed to lose. It's obviously big money already. He's 25 million up front with another 5 in add-ons. It looks like he is the winger that they were after. He's got pace to burn. Obviously, he can take on players. We've seen the stats about him being one of the top 5 players young players in Europe to take on players in dribbles. So I think in the way Postecoglou likes to play, he seems like a very good fit. And he also has a versatility, which is what Postecoglou likes from his players. He likes players who can play in different positions. You imagine he'd be more of a wide player, but he sounds like he can play centrally as well. And another youngster. I mean, that's another teenager they've signed. They've signed Bergvall, they've signed Archie Gray, both 18, and now they've got Odobert as well at 19. Obviously, there's Yang coming in January as well, another 18-year-old. So we knew Postecoglou liked to show faith in young players. Spurs like to do it that way as well, and so it's proving. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in. They've obviously got quite a lot of depth when you think about it out wide. Already, if you're talking about the right, which is what you think more about, his style of play probably be suited to the right wing. Obviously got Kulusevski there, they've got Brennan Johnson, so he adds to that. On the left, they've got Son, Werner. There's a lot of depth in there now. So we'll see how it plays out. Just a final point in Postecoglou's comments, he did basically confirm that Son's going to be playing off the left this season. It looks like the way he's talking that Richarlison is more likely to stay, although as I said the other day, I'll still wait to see that one out between now and the end of the window. And he's liking the strength and depth up front now with Solanke, Richarlison if he stays, and the option for Son coming into the team as well. And don't forget Will Lancashire unless he goes out on loan. So some good depth to Spurs' squad, and let's see how they fare tomorrow at the King Power. But for now, it's Chelsea Man City for me.